9 people die after a boat capsizes in an Egyptian lake. A Hutu rebel group denies killing the Italian ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo. And new research suggests COVID-19 infections in Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, may top Africa's official total. Hello and a very warm welcome to Africa Live, only on CGTN. I'm Mahia Mutua, live in Nairobi. Joining me now with your business headlines is Ramanyang.
Thank you very much, Mahia. Here's what's coming up in the course of the hour. Zimbabwe Central Bank has raised its policy rate in order to control rampant inflation. And South Sudan is set to roll out new large denomination notes. Look at the latest changes in monetary policy in Africa's youngest country. Plenty more in the course of the hour. For now, let's start with the latest in current affairs with Mahia.
Rama, thank you. We begin the top of the hour in North Africa, where at least 9 people have died after a boat capsized in Egypt. The accident took place on Lake Mariut, located in the city of Alexandria. About 20 passengers were on board. So far, 7 survivors have been found, 5 of whom suffered injuries. It is not yet known what caused the accident. Well, CGTN's Adel Mahroui is in Cairo and joins us for the latest. Adel, what more can you tell us about the boat accident in the Egyptian city of Alexandria?
Maya, this was a family trip in the lake, as you've mentioned briefly. Despite warnings of weather conditions and high tides in the region in northern Egypt specifically, where the weather during this week has been greatly unstable, they've took on with a family cruise. It is unfortunate and sad for me to tell you that all people on board were from the same family. There are kids, women, and of course adults on board of that ship, on that boat. As you've mentioned, at least 9 have been confirmed dead. About 7 were found, 5 of them injured, and there's at least 5 others still missing, who the authorities have been trying to allocate, and divers have been searching the bottom of the lake, trying to find their corpse or any signs of their whereabouts.
And Adele, this isn't the first time this has happened. There have been several boat accidents in the past. What is the Egyptian government doing to help minimize this now?
Well, it has been always a great challenge for Egypt and the government specifically to try to regulate the operation of such small boats. In the city, in the Egyptian capital, the government through the past couple of years has launched a great crackdown over these illegal ports and these illegal trips in the Nile. It has pushed them away from the capital, but they remain to be active. That's on the River Nile and in the lakes in the northern city of Alexandria and others as well. So there has been a move. This incident has actually sparked a move within the parliament. The member of parliament from North Alexandria, the city where the incident happened, has sent a request to question the prime minister and ministers involved in transportation and regulating surface water or naval transportation in the country, to try and put a final end to that. The incident that happened was unfortunate, but it also shows some indication. The boat owners in the region, when they were questioned early in the morning, they say that hundreds of boats take on to the lake for cruises without any strong supervision, and therefore whenever there are a weather warning like what was happening today, there is really no way to apply that to them because they are unlicensed. The boat that sank today was an unlicensed boat. It hit some concrete wall barriers in the sea and it sank right after. So all over, it seems, because it was unlicensed, it could manage to get through to the water surface. Because it drowned and it was unlicensed, help was quite late because the boat owner was reluctant to call for help, and right after he did, he fled so that he would not be captured, because he realizes the magnitude of responsibility legally and the criminal violations that he have conducted, and therefore an immediate movement from the parliament has begun. To what extent will that be successful? Well, it's for these coming days to tell us.
All right, Adele, thank you very much for keeping us up to speed. CGTN's Adele Mahrui joining us live from Cairo. Well, turning to Uganda, the rising number of boat accidents on the major lakes is causing concern. The accidents have led to the loss of many lives and destroyed livelihoods too. Isabel Nakiria talked to some fishermen on Lake Victoria and now brings us this report.
Julius Chivumbi has spent 20 years of his life as a fisherman on Lake Victoria. Despite his experience, he says it's hard to tell how the waters will behave. Julius has had several brushes with death, but the most frightening one was 2 years ago.
It wasn't a pleasant day. All of a sudden, the engine just stopped and the boat started turning in circles. Everyone on the boat was crying out. I tried calming people down, and it was raining heavily. You couldn't even see your next neighbor. It lasted about 5 minutes, but everyone knew we were gone.
Julius says when the storm died down, they called for help from their fellow fishermen who arrived quickly. Boat accidents on Uganda's major waters are becoming frequent. Fishermen here say the biggest risk they face in the waters is strong winds and waves that often overpower their small boats. And with laxity in safety measures, accidents are imminent. The last deadly boat accident on Lake Victoria was in 2018 when 30 people died. Over 100 people were aboard the boat for a fun ride, far more than its capacity. And in December last year, 26 people died on Lake Albert on the border of Uganda and the DRC. Poor weather and overloading was reported as the cause of both accidents. But some fishermen fault passengers for disobeying maritime rules.
Some passengers begin drinking alcohol on the boat and we can't stop them. After getting drunk, they even remove the life jackets. And they even tell you off that they rented the boat and you have no right to tell them what to do.
The government has deployed marine police on the lakes to improve safety. But the unit's leader says his team is ill-equipped to man the 4 major lakes in the country, making it hard to rescue people on time. Fishermen like Julius also blame boat owners for the poor condition of some of the vessels.
People do not pay attention to the damages on their boats. And on top of that, they overload the boats just because they want to earn more money. And at the end of the day, accidents happen.
Many of the vessels on Uganda's waters are said to be unseaworthy. Fishermen like Julius say it's up to them to ensure they are safe in the water before embarking on a journey. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN Kampala, Uganda.
Now, the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, which is a Hutu rebel group, has denied allegations that it was behind the killing of the Italian ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo. In a media statement received by international news agency AFP, the FDLR has instead accused the armies of the DRC and Rwanda of being behind the attack. Italian ambassador Luca Attanasio died from his wounds on Monday. That is after the convoy he was in with members of the World Food Programme came under fire near the eastern city of Goma. The DRC's Interior Ministry has blamed the killings on members of the FDLR, which has operated in the region for more than 2 decades. Well, Italy's lower house of parliament has held a minute of silence in honor of the Italian ambassador to the DRC, Luca Attanasio, and his bodyguard Vittorio Iacovacci, who were killed on Monday. The Speaker of the lower house, Roberto Fico, led a tribute before the minute of silence. In the eastern city of Goma on Tuesday, a UN van transported the bodies of Attanasio and Iacovacci to the airport. An Italian military plane later flew the bodies to Rome.
We are very saddened and dismayed by the incomprehensible and cowardly brutality against 2 of our citizens who are both, in their own roles, committed to an international effort of support and solidarity with the local population.
Well, the FDLR is just one of around 120 armed groups operating in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, due to this, the dynamics in the region are complex. Many of the groups are behind numerous attacks that have made the eastern part of the DRC volatile and insecure. CGTN's Thuli Shabalala takes us through some of the recent attacks.
Italy's ambassador to the Democratic Republic of Congo, Luca Attanasio, is just the latest casualty in a spate of killings by armed rebel groups in the volatile eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. On the 6th of January, at least 22 civilians were killed in Mwenda village in North Kivu province. The attack was carried out by the Ugandan rebel group Allied Democratic Forces. The group also killed at least 25 people on New Year's Eve in the village of Tingwe in North Kivu. The Allied Democratic Forces has killed hundreds of civilians in the past year. That resulted in the Congolese army launching an offensive against them in November 2020. Last year, on April 16, the Islamic State carried out an attack on an army base in the northeast of the Democratic Republic of Congo. The group has claimed responsibility for at least 15 other incidents in the DRC. This includes an attack on the Congolese army near Goma on the 3rd of June and the abduction of 15 civilians near Oicha on May 23. The DRC government accused the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda for the massacre of at least 12 rangers in Virunga Park at the end of April 2020. But the Rwandan rebels denied carrying out those killings. Thuli Shabalala, CGTN.
Now, parents in Nigeria are increasingly concerned about the education and well-being of their children after several recent attacks targeting schools. Last week, gunmen raided a school in northern Nigeria, kidnapping 42 people, including 27 students. Tesem Akende reports from Plateau State.
45-year-old Theresa Owonobi is preparing her 3 children for school. She says that every day she has to take them to school and back just to ensure their safety.
I don't feel safe because it can happen to anybody. As you can see, I bring my children to school every day, day by day. I bring them to school and I come to pick them in the afternoon. As a matter of fact, this country, there is no security.
The teachers are also worried and now fear that student attendance will continue dropping.
Teachers here say parents and guardians are now reluctant to send their children to school due to insecurity.
The teachers are also worried about their security. In last week's attack, 3 teachers and 12 of their family members were abducted. Many of them say they are now soft targets for kidnappers. This is beginning to take a toll on the progress they've made in educating children.
We don't feel safe as teachers in school. Even the children are not safe. Parents too are not safe. If it can happen in Borno, Kaduna, Niger, it can also happen here on Plateau. So no one knows where it will strike.
Psychologists link the recent attacks on schools to the problem of high youth unemployment. They say insurgents are trying to stop locals from getting Western education.
If this situation continues, it's going to affect the school negatively because no parents will be willing to expose the child into that kind of torture. The government should please try and do something because I'm very sure that if jobs are created, more jobs are created, I know that these people will be occupied.
President Buhari has ordered military and police heads to beef up security in schools across the country and find the perpetrators of these crimes. Until then, parents like Theresa will have to deal with the fear that comes with taking their children to school daily. Tesem Akende, CGTN Jos, Nigeria.
Now, Myanmar's biggest city, Yangon, is seeing relatively peaceful protests on Tuesday. Businesses have resumed operations after Monday's general strike. Gao Jiayi reports from Yangon.
My current location is at the Minigong Junction. Yangon still said is very peaceful. After the 5-2 general strike on Monday, Yangon people's life quickly returned to normal. Supermarkets, restaurants and shopping malls recovered, and workers have returned back to the factory. However, all banks in Yangon are still closed. Only some ATM machines can withdraw cash. There are still protests in the main roads and the embassy districts. Most of the protesters are young people. They use music and paintings to express the dissatisfaction with the military takeover. I noticed that there are also many volunteers providing food and water and masks for the demonstrators.
As we are doctors and medical team, we are doing as much as we can. Although we are protesting and doing the civil disobedience movement in our government and also our government hospital, but we are also supplying our our people as much as we can, and also we are supporting them to get the democracy that we want.
Because I have one children, and one is almost delivered. So the military control our country. So I am worried about my future generation.
Tuesday's protests are peaceful and orderly. Gao Jiayi for CGTN in Yangon.
We're heading for a short break now. Stay with us here on Africa Live. Here's what's coming up. New research reveals COVID-19 infections in Nigeria's commercial capital, Lagos, may exceed Africa's official total. And China donates 300,000 Sinovac vaccine doses to Uganda.
Africa is a continent of diversity, with varied climate and enchanting geography, and a people so distinct, but with a shared enduring spirit. We are at the heart of the continent to bring you the untold stories.
Let's have a look.
We celebrate Africa as it shapes its own destiny.
Tunis, Cairo,
Juba,
Johannesburg, Ethiopia,
Tanzania. Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back. Now, a COVID-19 antibodies survey in Nigeria suggests that 4 million people in Lagos State alone had the virus last year. The study, done on 10,000 people from 4 Nigerian states, was to estimate the extent of the spread of the coronavirus in Africa's most populous nation. The seroprevalence survey was carried out in September and October by Nigeria's Center for Disease Control and the Institute for Medical Research. The rates of infection were initially thought to be low during the first wave of the pandemic. Nigeria recorded its highest daily infection rate in January when it logged 1,600 new cases, suggesting many more people were infected in the second wave. The West African country currently has 153,000 confirmed infections and over 1,800 deaths. Well, we're joined by CGTN's Deji Badmas now to shed more light on that survey. Deji, the survey shows that COVID-19 infections in Lagos may top Africa's official total. What exactly does this mean?
Well, it essentially means it means what it says, and it's quite worrying. You look at the moment, the latest statistics on COVID-19 infections in Africa at the moment is less than 4 million. And here you have a survey showing that in a city of just around 20 million people, there is a chance that about 4 million people are infected. So it's quite a worrying statistics. It's very worrying. It's giving everyone serious cause for concern. But it also confirms what health experts had long feared, that there's a possibility that the situation of COVID-19 in this country is actually worse than previously thought. And it also goes to confirm that there is a chance, Mahia, that COVID-19 actually got here before February, February 2020, when the first case was reported in this country. So there is that chance. But and don't forget that this survey basically This survey was actually conducted during the first wave of the pandemic. You know, the second wave of the pandemic actually started sometime in January in this country with a lot of people coming down with the disease. The infection rate actually went up. The mortality rate also went up. So there are fears that if another survey was to be conducted today, then the picture might be worse than what we are seeing at the moment. Mahia?
And Deji, looking at the specifics, what exactly does the survey tell us?
Now, let's talk about the statistics. Quite worrying. First of all, it clearly shows that more males are infected. Males are more infected than female. So more, and it's something we've actually seen even before the survey actually came out. So more males are infected. Urban areas more affected than rural areas. We have seen that. So it's actually not new. And the age range of those who are more infected between 18 and 64. So these are some of the results now that this survey actually revealed. So it's well, in some cases I would say not new. We had always known that men are more affected in this part of the world than women, and that urban areas are more affected. And clearly it shows that Lagos, for instance, is still the epicenter of the virus, and that's quite understandable. You look at the number of people living here, around 20 million or more, and then the first case reported was in this country. You look at the various ports in this, in this city now, the various ports in the city, the airport, major airport, with high density of passengers now coming in. So not a surprise at all, but of course, it's also a challenge. At least authorities now have a clearer picture of what the situation is, the situation with COVID-19 now, not just in the country, but particularly in Lagos State and some of those states, of course, where this survey was also conducted.
All right, Deji, thank you very much for breaking down the results of that survey. CGTN's Deji Badmas joining us live from Lagos. Moving on, China has donated 300,000 doses of COVID-19 vaccines to Uganda. The donation comes at a time when African countries are lagging behind in getting access to vaccines and at the same time grappling with new variants of COVID-19. CGTN's Hilary Ayesiga reports.
A boost in the fight against COVID-19. China is offering free Sinovac vaccines to Uganda.
I want to express appreciation for the donation of 50,000 anti-COVID testing kit and 300,000 anti-COVID vaccines.
Uganda has so far recorded over 40,000 cases and more than 300 deaths. The government believes the donation will go a long way to curb community transmission of the virus. Uganda is in the process of procuring 18 million doses of AstraZeneca vaccine from India and also expects additional 3.5 million doses via the COVAX program. The vaccines are expected early next month. The Sinovac COVID-19 vaccine is approved for public use by China's medical products regulator. Hilary Ayesiga, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Now, Egypt has also received 300,000 doses of the Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine. The donation from the Chinese government will help address a shortage of vaccines that Egypt is facing. Following the arrival of the shipment early Tuesday morning, the Health Ministry announced its plans to roll out public vaccinations across the country. Adel Mahroui has more details.
Egypt has received its biggest shipment of COVID-19 vaccines. Chinese and Egyptian officials have welcomed this much-needed gift from China.
The last time Egypt received 50,000 COVID-19 vaccines from Sinopharm was via the United Arab Emirates. This time, it is a gift from the Chinese government to the Egyptian government. These are 300,000 doses of the Chinese vaccine to strengthen and support Egypt's effort to face the pandemic and avail the vaccine to the Egyptian people.
This is material proof of the depth of relations between the Egyptian and the Chinese people. On behalf of the Prime Minister, the political leadership and the Health Minister, I thank the People's Republic of China and its ambassador for standing by Egypt during this pandemic.
Egypt participated in Phase 3 of the human clinical trials for the Chinese vaccine from Sinopharm. The Egyptian Drug Authority has already approved the use of Sinopharm jab for emergency use. Local tests have shown that the vaccine has an overall 86% efficiency and can totally avoid moderate to severe COVID-19 symptoms.
So far, all vaccinated medical teams have not shown any significant symptoms from the Chinese vaccine. Few have reported common mild symptoms, which are common in any vaccine, like mild fever or slight pain from the injection. Otherwise, we haven't noticed anything that raises concern.
This shipment increases Egypt's inventory of COVID-19 vaccines by fourfolds to reach 400,000 doses. Egypt's health ministry says it will relaunch citizens' vaccine registration next week. The first group of civilians should get the jabs in March. Adil Mahroui, CGTN, Cairo.
Now, since the emergence of the novel coronavirus in December 2019, several vaccines have started to be rolled out. In Africa, the number of countries inoculating people has been increasing. South Africa and Zimbabwe are the latest to join the list, which includes the Seychelles, Rwanda and Egypt. CGTN's Daniel Arap Moi looks at the progress made so far across the continent.
Many African countries have not started vaccinating their citizens against COVID-19 as yet. The continent has recorded over 100,000 deaths since the outbreak. In sub-Saharan Africa, some of the countries now vaccinating people are: Mauritius began vaccinations after receiving the first 100,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. South Africa has already secured 9 million doses of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Up to 500,000 healthcare workers are to be vaccinated across 9 provinces. Seychelles received a donation of 50,000 doses of a vaccine developed by Chinese manufacturer Sinopharm. The country is expected to receive another 100,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine. Zimbabwe started its rollout with 200,000 doses of China's Sinopharm vaccine. Another 600,000 doses are expected in early March. In North Africa, Algeria has rolled out 50,000 doses of Russia's Sputnik V COVID-19 vaccine. Morocco has ordered enough vaccine for 33 million people and aims to inoculate 80% of the population.
The African Union has secured a provisional 270 million vaccine doses for Africa. The final COVAX target is to provide up to 600 million doses. Daniel Arap Moi, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
And further afield, the United States has crossed the staggering milestone of 500,000 COVID-19 deaths. This comes just 1 year since the first death was recorded in California. The 500,000 lives lost are about equal to the number of Americans killed in the Second World War, as well as the Korea and Vietnam Wars combined. To honor them, President Joe Biden has ordered the U.S. flag be flown at half-staff on public buildings and grounds until sunset on Friday. About 19% of total global coronavirus deaths have occurred in the United States, a nation that accounts for just 4% of the world's population.
I've always lived with death around me. I've been doing this more than 20 years, but just to have it right next to you, literally, it's like, wow. It's something off a bad horror movie. That's how it feels sometimes. It's just something off a horror movie.
There's people behind the numbers. I mean, our mom's behind that number, and it's really sad.
Well, it's just about time for the latest in business. Rama's back with more.
Thank you very much, Mahia. Here's what's coming up in business news. Zimbabwe Central Bank has raised its policy rate in order to keep a lid on rising inflation. And we look at South Sudan's plans to roll out new large denomination notes.
It's just taken me completely out of my depth, but
At the same time, it's exciting. It's new, it's different, it's a challenge.
It's really exciting.
Over the last 48 hours of rain.
Welcome back to the programme. Let's head over to Zimbabwe. The central bank over there has raised its policy rate as it aims to maintain a leash on money supply in pursuit of its target of keeping annual inflation to less than 10% by the end of the year.
The Reserve Bank of Zimbabwe has revised its quarterly reserve money growth target from 25% to 22.5% as it aims to maintain exchange rate stability and continue the downward inflation trend. It's raised lending rates to tighten money supply and encourage productive use of funds.
From June 22 to December, the loans to the productive sector increased by 82 billion, having been 37 billion in June. So that's a huge increase. And you have to cap that, because what you don't want to do, you don't want to put too much money into the system so that it overheats. So he has to make it a little more expensive for companies to borrow, so that when they borrow, they really think about borrowing and they are going to put it in productive sector.
The move to raise lending rates may also affect the equities market, which has been offering inflation-beating returns, which had enticed some people to borrow funds to invest there. The central bank said 70% of the $795 million disbursed by the foreign currency auction since its launch in June was spent on raw materials, machinery and equipment. It's doubled the individual cash withdrawal limits, a move analysts say will enhance transaction convenience. Monetary authorities also confirmed the imminent release of a $50 banknote, which they say should not stoke inflation. However, as has been observed in the past, sentiment and not necessarily economic fundamentals play a part in driving inflation here.
When you have a huge informal sector, it's very difficult to use formal tools and formal economic policy to try and collect the informal sector. And that is the challenge that the Reserve Bank will always face. We have seen, for example, inflation spiking regardless of the rate stabilizing. It indicates that the activity, economic activity in the informal sector is not ruled by what the formal sector is doing.
Foreign currency inflows for 2020 were $6.3 billion, up from $5.5 billion the previous year, propelled by a record diaspora remittances of over $1 billion, justifying calls for more concerted efforts to encourage the economic participation of Zimbabweans abroad. Mahia Mutua, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
On to South Sudan. The central bank over there says it's introducing new banknotes of 1,000 South Sudanese pounds to try and reduce the burden of having to carry vast amounts of cash around for daily activities. The East African nation does continue to struggle with sky-high inflation amid a shortfall of foreign currency reserves. From Juba, here's CGTN's Patrick Oyet.
South Sudan Central Bank says it wants to make the country's currency more convenient for use. The country has banknotes of 5, 10, 20, 100 and 500 pounds. The 1,000 pound note will become the largest denomination.
Printing small notes costs us a lot of foreign currency every year. This one will reduce it significantly. The other justification, of course, and I'm sure my friends in commercial bank know that very well, is the storage. Storage has been a challenge to us because we have these small denominations and you need massive space in order to store this small currency.
South Sudan's government depends on oil revenue to fund the majority of its budget. Shocks caused by the coronavirus pandemic led to a global fall in oil prices, reduced revenue, and with little hard currency in circulation, inflation followed. Depreciation in the value of the country's currency and hyperinflation means people have to carry lots of notes to buy goods. South Sudan Central Bank says the introduction of the new banknote is in line with international best practices to ensure that demand for banknotes is aligned with economic activities. South Sudan Central Bank says the country's informal economy is creating a huge demand for cash. It promises to continue modernizing the currency to make it more convenient. However, some experts say introduction of the new banknote will not stop inflation.
In order to fight corruption, to fight the high inflation, we need to have strong systems of governance that are going to promote economic development and also promote the citizens to be productive.
Some economists think the government should make lasting peace its priority, which they say would then make it easier to have a strong fiscal and monetary policy. The country's new banknote is a reminder of its economic challenges. Patrick Koyet, CGTN, Juba, South Sudan.
South Africa's liquor sector is estimated to have lost about $2.4 billion in retail sales revenue in the on-again, off-again liquor bans over the last 12 months. That's according to a report by FTI Consulting. Angela Coppola has been looking at the data.
The report estimates that there have been 200,000 job losses in the alcohol industry, but it's also about the duties lost to the government coffers.
There's around 87 billion that's estimated to have lost just on your excise duties alone. So considering South Africa's current fiscal situation, that is important revenue that can really be ill afforded to have been gone. Overall, sales down from around 2019 for the 2020 period is down 17%. And of the sectors that have been hit the hardest, it's the beer and the wine sectors, which plays an important role in our tourism economy as well.
The alcohol sector is counting the cost of sales and export bans, no more so than the wine sector, which supports 269,000 people and contributes 1.1% to the country's GDP.
As a direct result of these alcohol bans, domestic wine sales were down by 20% in volume. And additionally, the 5-week export ban resulted in 300 million litres of uncontracted wine within 640 million litres of stock, at a time when the industry had commenced with the 2021 harvest, which created a stock dilemma.
The beer industry has also been severely affected.
And with beer sales having declined by 195 million litres, and a large proportion, as you can imagine, having to be dumped. And this is also, with the dumping, you also have to pay SARS to actually dump your alcohol that has expired.
The craft beer brewing sector has also felt the effects of government measures, with small business debt levels skyrocketing.
A lot of people had IDC loans, and IDC has been calling on now the loan repayments. And I think that, it is really disappointing because a lot of these are government branches, and you would think that they would be a little bit more sensitive to the plight of the industry.
Perhaps as concerning are the long-term impacts on the wine export ban.
Our South African wine producers have to fight quite hard with our overseas counterparts to get that valuable shelf space in overseas markets, etc. So that will take many, many years, and estimates up to around a decade to rectify the impact.
It's uncertain how long it's going to take for the alcohol sector to recover from the curfews, the alcohol bans, and the different lockdown levels. What's of more concern, though, is what's going to happen to the value chains leading into those different subsectors. I'm Angelo Coppola for CGTN in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Tunisia has allocated over $600 million in its 2021 budget to new infrastructure and construction projects. The country's construction sector as a whole remains a key part of the wider economy, and it's being seen as a vital component to kick-starting a much broader recovery. Here's CGTN's Alan Chachi with that report.
Tunisian Prime Minister Hisham Meshishi has stressed that infrastructure and public works sector is important for improving the living condition of its citizens. Through a number of infrastructure projects, the North African state is helping to underpin industry demand and accelerate development amid a slowdown caused by the COVID-19 pandemic.
This sector is vital to the economy. The government has allocated more than $627 million in the state budget for the year 2021. This financing will help the department as well as hundreds of companies carry out different public works, housing and infrastructure projects planned to accelerate development.
The Tunisian Ministry of Public Works, Housing and Infrastructure has recently been granted the Certificate of Quality Management ISO 9001 by the French Association for Standardization. Authorities in Tunisia say that ISO 9001 Quality Management Certificate will allow the Infrastructure Ministry to carry out its projects more efficiently. The certificate will also guarantee the transparency of all operations.
We are giving priority to structural infrastructure projects because they create added value and new opportunities. The new quality management certificate will help the infrastructure ministry improve the services it offers. Tunisia has talented competences in the public works field.
According to the Export Promotion Center, local companies plan to conquer the African market and operate in many countries. Tunisian enterprises will build infrastructure with international standards and offer services in other sectors.
We are pushing for closer cooperation between Tunisian enterprises and companies in other African states. We have the experience and the expertise to respect international standards. Tunisia is full of success stories that we can export to other markets.
The French Association for Standardization and the Tunisian Ministry of Infrastructure announced that the ISO 9001 Quality Management Certificate is the first of its kind in Africa.
Tunisian authorities assert that the new quality certificate confirms the success of the process of governance and good management of public projects in the North African state. In addition, it will strengthen the confidence of foreign investors in Tunisian companies. Adnan Shawashi, CGTN, Tunis.
And I'll leave it there for the time being. I'll be back at the top of the hour. In global business, we'll be heading south to Tanzania. The government over there says it's on course to join the fastest growing economies on the continent. But do the numbers add up? We'll examine that in detail from Dar es Salaam, alongside with other stories from across the continent and the world. See you then. For now, back to Mahia.
Rama, thank you. Well, there's still more to come here on Africa Live, including Burkina Faso's new fabric set to boost national pride and women empowerment.
The greatest journeys, the greatest sights, the greatest adventures.
Here in Qanater, this weir allows the locals to walk on water.
We're far more than just TV news. We're your passport to the wonders of Africa.
To bring you stories of struggle, survival and hope.
So let's explore. CGTN. See the difference.
Every year, approximately 400 million tons of plastic is produced, and about 40% of that is single use.
79% of that is not recycled, it's not turned into energy, it's just going into landfill or into the environment in some way.
With the global focus on plastic pollution and my eldest son Tristan studying marine biology, I wanted to get involved and see for myself the true extent of the pollution in our region.
We're on our way!
Welcome back. Let's take you to Burkina Faso now, where the country has launched a new fabric aimed at boosting the country's identity. The loincloth, known as Faso Dan Fani, can reportedly not be copied or duplicated. The fabric is not just a symbol of national pride, but for the country's female weavers, it's also a way to keep food on the table. CGTN's Tuli Shabalala has more.
This is the Faso Danfani loincloth. It is a source of pride for the Burkinabe people. The traditional fabric is made by weavers from non-genetically modified cotton. It's woven either by hand or with a loom. The Burkina Faso government in 2018 launched a procedure to label the brand Faso Danfani. Around 20 women groups around Burkina Faso have to train and receive approval for the production and marketing of the cloth.
According to the order of our work, each woman member of our association is autonomous. She works from her home. We share the same ideals, the same objectives, the same vision. The women are free to bring their products to the association's shop to display them. Each woman is also free to sell her products or deliver her orders to whomever she wants on the market. It is this autonomy that the women enjoy here at the level of the association.
The fabric is dyed using an artisanal technique. Quality and compliance with dyeing and weaving standards are of the utmost importance.
We are one of the pioneering structures that have been awarded the label. Therefore, we will always work to respect the specifications of the label. We must also work together to offer quality fabrics, whether it is in grouped or detailed orders for export and customer satisfaction.
Many of the women who produce the fabrics in the associations are able to make a profit to support their families.
To see one's product, fabric or design being worn by an authority or being exported or used for other purposes is something we are really proud of. It must be said that Faso Danfani feeds his man because with this fabric, the women manage to pay for their children's schooling. They participate considerably at the household level.
The Faso Danfani loincloth is sold at between $13 and $46. The fabric is favored by many designers and the Burkinabe population.
I'm here to buy the Faso Danfani, which is a national pride for us, and we encourage all the women who make these beautiful Faso Danfani fabrics. We have a wide choice. There are many colors and patterns. Honestly, these women don't stop surprising us every time we come into the shop. We are amazed.
Burkinabe women weavers help each other to sell their products locally. They also take part in various international exhibitions. Tuli Shabalala, CGTN.
And here's what's coming up on Africa Live Sports. Young Senegalese champion jockey Fallou Diop eyeing international success.
How would you create your legend? On the fields, on the tracks, in the arenas of Africa. Were you born to be a player? Could this moment be yours? Sports Scene. Find your game.
Well, we kick off the sport with a stunning result from the group stages of the CAF Champions League, where Tanzania champions Simba have beaten record winners and holders Al Ahly 1-0 at the Benjamin Mkapa Stadium in Dar es Salaam. Mozambican midfielder Luis Miquisson's thunderous finish in the 31st minute proved to be the winner in the Group A encounter. It was only the second defeat for South African coach Pitso Mosimane, who led the Cairo Giants to their record-extending 9th Champions League title.